Hey, what's up? This is Dr. Ryan. This is your 5 Minutes of Fire. Today's video is about what I learned by running by Bill Gates' house. So we went to Seattle this last weekend for Memorial Day, and my wife's family lives in Bellevue and Seattle, and we have friends all over the place over there. So we went for the whole weekend, and we were staying in Bellevue with Erin's aunt and uncle, and I went for a run and was able to run by Bill Gates' house, and obviously just a ridiculous neighborhood. But one thing that I discovered or realized when I ran by his house is, you know, the difference between someone like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and LeBron James and all these guys that are just super successful and the rest of us, the difference between those guys and us is the ability to focus and not get distracted. You know, I just watched a documentary on Warren Buffett. It's called Becoming Warren Buffett. You can find it on YouTube. It's produced by HBO, and it's pretty good. It's you know, his life is actually not very exciting. You know, so he's not like Richard Branson or somebody that parachutes out of airplanes and is a thrill seeker. You know, and there's different personalities, different lifestyles. But for him, you know, one of the things that was striking to me is he said no to a lot of different things in life, and he attributes all of his success to the ability that he has to say no and to stay focused on one thing. You know, Bill Gates is the same way. I remember watching a documentary and then reading a book about his life, and just the fact that, you know, when he was just starting out as a college kid, you know, he used to sneak into the computer labs at UW, University of Washington, and work on programming on computers, you know, all hours of the night. And then he ended up doing the same thing at home for years. And it was just because that's what he was into. That's what piqued his interest. That was his hobby, and he just couldn't get enough of it. And so in both of those cases, you know, the ability to say no to other things was really what made them successful. You know, I think the trap that a lot of us fall into, and myself included, I mean, I'm the king of, you know, shiny new object syndrome, meaning I get excited about something at a seminar because I read a book or because I just wake up with, you know, some kind of idea, and I'll go hard at it for just a little while. And then as soon as that thing starts to stall out, or I'm not successful, or if it doesn't take off right away, or I fail once or twice, you know, then I'm on to the next thing. And, you know, if LeBron James quit basketball after every game that he lost, you know, when he was first starting out, obviously he wouldn't be LeBron James. And same thing with Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. These guys weren't just successful 100% of the time, but they had this deep desire, this deep passion for the things that they were interested in, and then they just stayed focused on it. And, you know, so what I'm trying to apply in my life is staying focused on my core values. You know, and that doesn't mean that you know, you only work and you don't do anything else. You know, you don't work at the expense of your marriage. You don't work at the expense of your health. You don't pay attention to your health at the expense of your work either. You know, I think a lot of times we're like, oh, that means I should just play more and enjoy my life. No, that's not it either. You gotta be balanced. But, you know, the thing about balance is not that you give equal amount of time to everything in your life. You know, something that one of my coaches, Dr. Greg Lohman, taught me, you know, when I was in chiropractic school is, he's like, there's no such thing as balance. Like, no successful person has balance in their life when it comes to time. So it's not like you spend, you know, 5 hours at work, 5 hours working out, 5 hours with your wife, 5 hours with your kids, 5 hours at church every day. It's not a time balance, it's an energy balance. So for most of us, you know, we need to go to work, or we need to work on our profession or whatever it is that brings in, you know, value to our families and revenue. But you know, so you're probably going to give most of your time to that. But the amount of energy that you distribute needs to be equal across, you know, all categories of your life. And so, you know, what I've tried to do, and I'm not perfect at this, but I think I've gotten a lot better over the last 10 years, is I try to figure out what's the one thing that I can do in each category of my life that's going to yield the biggest results to keep me focused. You know, so if I'm training for an Ironman, I can't be going to CrossFit all the time. I love CrossFit. But if I do a lot of CrossFit and I don't go for long bikes and runs and do interval training and all that stuff, and I don't swim, I'm gonna suck. You know, I was in really good CrossFit shape the first time I ever did an Ironman, and cramped up, my body broke down, I wasn't in cardio shape like that, and it just didn't work, you know. So for me, I established a goal, and in fitness right now, it's Ironman. Someday, one of my, you know, big picture goals is to end up qualifying for Ironman Kona, you know, and if it takes me 20 years to do that, that's fine. But I'm focused on that. In my marriage, you know, there's one thing that I can focus on and, you know, kind of stay not distracted from everything else. In the office, you know, and that's where I'm the most guilty. And if you're a chiropractor or an entrepreneur or a leader or even a pastor, you know, I think the biggest danger is to not get distracted, not change everything every couple of weeks or every couple of months or a couple of years even. You know, there's virtue in adapting. You know, it's like I heard a story about if the plane takes off from Chicago and it's trying to get to Miami, you know, just because the wind knocks you off track a little bit doesn't mean you just say, oh, well, I'll turn around and go back. You got to course correct, you got to get back on track, and you got to figure out how to make it work so you still end up at your destination, but you can't get distracted. And so what I would do is I would figure out where are you being distracted in your life that are taking you away from or pulling you away from your hopes, goals, and dreams, and figure out a way to say no to those things. You know, there's another great book that I read a couple years ago that was recommended to me by Dr. Peter Camiolo, and it's called The Energy Bus. And it was just all about, I mean, you could get the gist of it just by reading the back cover, but you know, going through the book was valuable too. And the point was that you should make a list of all the things that suck your energy or distract you over the course of 2 weeks or a month, and then make another list at the same time of all the things that give you energy and move you forward, propel you and perpetuate you towards your goals, you know, in every category of your life, not just business. And then diligently and strategically, you know, figure out a way to get the negative things or the no things or the distracting things out of your life and get the positive energy, life-giving things into your life. Those things will help you stay focused. So if you're like me and you want to be more successful, not just in business, but in life, if you want to win at life, I think one of the big keys is to not get distracted. Figure out distracted. Don't get distracted either. Don't get distracted though. That'll keep you from becoming distracted. But figure out what you want and then don't get distracted. But be intentional about it, and you have to identify ahead of time what's going to distract you and then eliminate those things from your life. All right, have an amazing day. Go win.